What's your guys' favorite concert you've been to?
My first concert was literally Paul McCartney.
And that's also your favorite one?
I mean, it was 3 hours long. He played every fucking song that he's ever done, and it was beautiful and incredible. I mean, it set the bar pretty fucking high.
I think my first concert was technically the Beach Boys.
Yeah, let's go!
3. But then the first one that I was actually, I'm like, I am an adolescent and I want to go to this concert, was pretty iconic. It was Blink-182 and No Doubt.
Let's go!
It was pretty sick.
Pretty good. I didn't go to a concert until I was in college, and that was a group love concert, which is like not the coolest band in the world to have seen as your first concert. But what's really fun about that is the band that opened for them that I had never heard of was Muna, because this was in 2016 I went to this concert, and so we were opening for group love at the time, and now I think I know for a fact Muna is the band I have seen the most amount of times, because the first 2 times was when they opened for group love and then when they opened for Phoebe Bridgers, and then I've been to a concert of theirs. They were at All Things Go the first year I went, and then when Chapel Roan dropped out of All Things Go the second year that I went, Muna was our replacement for Chapel Roan. And so and then I'm going to All Things Go again this year, and Muna is one of the headliners, so it will be 6 times that I will have seen Muna live after September of this year.
Everybody's favorite opener.
I know, literally. But now they're headlining this music festival, so that's kind of huge and crazy.
Oh yeah. 2016 is a perfect year to have seen group love. I would argue maybe there was no other year that you could have reasonably seen group love.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I had a great time. They were great performers.
I want to live in whatever universe group love songs take place in.
I know, it's so fun and colorful and bright.
Literally, suicide rate 0.
Well, speaking of things that kind of made us a little suicidal, hello and welcome to Informed Attraction, a podcast hosted by one producer with anxiety and one disgusting misogynist, all about how the myth that men are simple is the thing that makes me want to put my head through a glass window. I'm Mackenna Goodrich.
I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer.
And before we get into the romantic comedy du jour, I'd like to introduce our guest today. Oh my God, Anne-Marie, how do you say your last name? I should know. It's Pietersma.
Yeah.
Okay, I got scared.
There's so many vowels. It's so Dutch. It's so confusing.
I know. And it's like, I can spell it and I know I can't. I just got scared. Anne-Marie, I would like to introduce our guest today, Anne-Marie Pietersma. Anne-Marie is an actor, writer, and a certified cheese professional. She runs the Trust Your Taste workshop. But most importantly for today, she is the author of I'll Have What Cheese Having, a book that is currently sitting on my coffee table, all about cheese pairings with your favorite romantic comedies. Anne-Marie is also my friend. Yay. And we're just excited to have her join us today.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
I'll Have What She's Having is not on my coffee table because this podcast hasn't taken off enough yet. But one day, with enough Patreon subscribers, I too can own a copy of I'll Have What She's Having.
I'll send you one, Aubrey.
Whoa. I'm getting PR. I'm getting PR.
Send you a PR package.
Holy fucking shit.
Anne-Marie also makes candles, and my favorite candle is the
cheese.
The When Harry Met Sally candle that you have.
Oh yeah, When Harry Met His Sweater.
Yeah, so good.
Cozy.
Yeah.
I don't have candles that smell like cheese, but I do have cheese inspired candles that I need to work very hard on the branding for, so people don't think that they smell like cheese because it's a little gross. So
yeah.
What would be the candle scent of the ugly truth?
Ooh. What would be the candle scent of the ugly truth? Probably something that has like a really woodsy base, but then something I would go more citrusy than floral for Katherine Heigl, I think. Like something that's like has a bit of acidity, a little tart, but like and very like clean. So like a clean woodsy balance, I think, would be the ugly truth.
That is such an honest answer. I was going to say gym socks.
I do think a thing about Gerard Butler, which is true, is that he's very hot, but he does always seem a little bit sweaty.
Yeah, for sure.
He's moist. He's a sweater. Yeah. I'm a sweater. I can recognize a sweater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweat.
Yeah. So today we are going to be doing a deep dive into The Ugly Truth, which is a rom-com from 2009. And to me, it sort of feels like the final boss of these late 2000s heterosexual panic rom-coms. It's a movie that's very obsessed with the idea of what men really want, workplace gender wars, pickup artistry, and the idea that falling in love and dating is psychological warfare. And it's a rom-com that really so earnestly and boldly asks the question, what if misogyny was a little bit useful? I was so interested in this movie because I had actually never seen it, but that's not true. I had seen a portion of it on FX. I had seen the scene where he has the girls Jello wrestle on TV, and 20 minutes after that. And I was so curious about this movie because I feel like it was so marketed to women. And then I was watching it and I was like, I feel like this is like a Wedding Crashers 40-year-old virgin knocked up movie, not a 27 dresses failure to launch movie. And so I really wanted to investigate what's up with this thing, because I think it's just such a confusing piece of media.
It is such a confusing piece of media, and I really can't stress enough how unpleasant the watching experience of it is. I really felt as though I was under duress the entire time. I do think now that I've seen The Ugly Truth, I do know what it is to be waterboarded. At least emotionally.
Anne-Marie, had you seen this movie before I told you I wanted to watch it for you coming on?
I had, but I honestly forgot that I had, because you're like, The Ugly Truth. I was like, oh shit, I need to rewatch that. And then when I went to rewatch it, I was like, oh, I remember this pretty well, actually. It's not one that I ever remembered or considered for the book, but
wow, why?
It, I was like, what do you mean? But honestly, rewatching it, I'm like, okay, fascinating. Because it does fit into that pocket of 2000s gender war, this is men are from Mars kind of shit. And then I was like, what? Because as Mackenna, we've been talking about, I've been steeped in the Playboy universe.
Yeah.
And looking at the food writing in that and what that says about the construction of a very specific kind of hetero masculine performance. And so this, I think because I have that on the brain, is probably why I'm thinking it through this lens. But I think I was like, oh, this movie's so dumb when I first watched it. And now I'm like, something interesting is happening here, because it's highlighting exactly what performing masculinity is.
Yeah.
And my maybe optimistic take on it is that it shows that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that also the performance of femininity also doesn't work. And that performing gender in general, works on a surface level because we exist within the systems that we exist in. So things work, but not really, because ultimately he falls in love with her, and he's the only one that knows how neurotic she is. And he's like, yeah, but still the messenger's like, I don't fucking know why. I just do. And that's supposed to be the romantic answer.
I know. It's that's why it's this movie is such a confused movie, because also the first 2/3 of it, I was watching it up until they go to Los Angeles. I was like, I can't believe a bunch of women wrote this movie. The first and second act of this movie, I was like, I don't understand how a group of women wrote this movie. This is crazy to me. And I was watching it last night and I was like, I am freaking out. I don't know what to do. And then they get to LA. And then once we get from just the enemies to the enemies turning into lovers situation, I was like, that's when I started to see what you just described, Anne-Marie. And I was like, okay, so I think that this movie is ultimately going to land in an okay place. And I think it does land in a okay place. But the first 2/3 of this movie, I was like, what is happening? I'm so scared.
Well, that's where I feel like this movie was in development hell for over a decade. And there just had to have been a lot of studio interference. And I do just wonder if the movie that we ended up getting was actually the movie that any of these women wanted to set out writing. Because I do feel like there is a core to this movie about, you know, the point you're making, Anne-Marie, about gender and performing gender, and, you know, like, what is authenticity in a relationship, and like, why do these like dating expert guys even exist, and like, is that fulfilling for them, and what do these guys really want? Like, I do feel like there's a core to this that is trying to make some kind of sophisticated point, but then it's just like, she's wearing vibrating underwear.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is like arguably the most watched probably scene in the movie. It's like one of the most like iconic scenes in the movie is that she gets off at like a business dinner.
Yeah.
And like it's just such a bummer. And it does feel like the development hell of it all. Like it feels like we just spend too long for the first 2/3 of the movie in just illustrate like this is the difference between men, when it does feel like a group of women wrote like a caricature of what this kind of man is for comedic effect.
Yeah.
But we just spend so long witnessing him being so awful.
Right. And not facing any real repercussion from that.
Right.
Like, and in fact,
He only kind of
actively
gets
being rewarded. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, is that I can see a version of this movie where it's like the first 20 minutes is doing that, and then the rest of the movie is like, here's how he's actually suffering in this process. And even if it looks like he is being successful, it is eroding him from the inside.
Right. That's like the missing piece, because like ultimately we do see him have like a bit of humanity. We get like a slice of him being vulnerable where it's like one line in the hot air balloon where he admits that like kind of, it's like if you're really generous with that scene, it's like he admits that the reason why he is the way he is because love is vulnerable and scary.
Yeah.
But we spend it's literally one line where he's like, yeah, it is scary. And that's it.
Well, because then we have to go back to the men and women be fighting.
Yeah.
But they be fucking too.
And now they be kissing. Yeah. Like it's, and what's the difference is kind of where that comedy is in like so many movies of that time, where it's just like, ha ha. It's like the 2000 version of like 90s stand-up my wife jokes.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I know couples in real life who are very like bantery with each other. Like, I know couples where they genuinely like to like kind of debate with each other and butt heads, and it's like fun and stimulating for them. And that is like the dynamic that I think a lot of these movies are trying to replicate, but they're doing it badly because they don't understand how men and women talk.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think what's interesting about this movie too is that it's released in 2009. It was written by 3 women, but it was directed by a man. So it was directed by Robert Luketic, who also directed Legally Blonde. I think I want to be very abundantly clear with that up front, that this man directed Legally Blonde.
Okay, but read his other films.
No, I'm going to, and I will. So that shocked the hell out of me, but he also directed Win a Date with Tad Hamilton,
which is a decent movie.
Monster-in-Law,
Bad.
21, Killers. Killers is the movie where it's Katherine Heigl and Ashton Kutcher is an assassin, which I completely forgot about until I was looking at this guy's filmography, and then I like into like being in a hotel room in like 2011 and watching that movie. And I think most importantly, a short film that is titled Tiziana Booberini.
Did you watch it? Be honest.
Nope. But it is about a woman with a hairy upper lip. And I felt like I just didn't have time to watch it because I discovered this so late in looking into all of this.
That's what it's about?
Yes.
That title?
It's called Tiziana Booberini, and it's about a girl who's getting made fun of for having a hairy upper lip.
Okay.
Who is named Tiziana Booberini.
And nothing to do with her tits. Does she have like a hairy upper lip and huge knockers?
That's what I'm thinking, that she has a mustache, but she has really big boobies, so all the guys look at her boobs and they're like, ooh, and then they look at her mustache and they're like, oh!
No, not really. She's like, because she's in like looking at the pictures of it, she's like in a grocery store clerk outfit. I know the joke is that she's Italian, so maybe it's just Tiziana Booberini.
Oh, man. That's a bummer.
You guys are actually wrong. I watched it just now, and it's actually about the plight of first-generation immigrants.
Oh, I'm sorry for being offensive.
You guys are actually culturally insensitive, and that was a beautiful piece of cinema.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Mr. Robert Luketic.
Yeah. He speaks for the Italians.
He does. He speaks for the Italians. Luketic, a famously Italian last name. So this film was made by the producers of Legally Blonde, written by Nicole Eastman, Karen McCullough, and Kirsten Smith. So Nicole Eastman is the one who wrote the original script in like 1999. And then that stayed in development for about a decade before McCullough and Smith, who were the two who worked on Legally Blonde, who came in and like performed a rewrite.
Yeah, the movie that we watched was not written in 1999. I'm so curious, what was the original script? Like, what was the original, like, even, because, like, I don't even think the main, like, Mike really was an archetype that would have existed in 1999.
Well, he's kind of probably a Howard Stern type in the 90s.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, more the Howard Stern than a Joe Rogan type. At that time.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember if they say, I have this interview with them, and I'm trying to remember if they say at all what Nicole's original script was like, because that is interesting. I don't know.
Because that's the thing, is like watching it is so generic that it like frankly surprises me that so many people who have been in bigger projects were involved in this film. Like, it feels like the type of movie that is somebody's like, straight out of college, I got some fucking money and I'm gonna make a movie.
Yeah.
I love that Brad from Even Stevens is the balloon operator at the end.
I know.
Classic. I made me so happy. I was like, yeah.
See, I want a movie about him.
It seems like the show was always set in morning TV, but that seems to be like the main thing. They said, so this is in the interview with Karen and Kirsten. And they say Nicole wrote her draft around 10 years ago, and it was one of those scripts that had been floating around for a while. I think at one point, Gwyneth Paltrow and Ben Affleck were attached when they were dating. That's how long it's been. Lakeshore called us up and sent it to us and asked if we wanted to rewrite it, and we said yes. That's how we became involved.
Thank God we don't live in the world where it's Gwyneth Paltrow and Ben Affleck. This world might be fucked up in a lot of ways, but at least I didn't have to see that.
And I wanted to read specifically a part of this. I wanted to read a part of this interview with the two of them about Katherine Heigl specifically. So I want to start at so I just read the question, how did the ugly truth come about? I want to start at the question, when was that? And I will have Aubrey play the role of Karen, and I will have Anne-Marie play the role of Kiwi, who is Kirsten Smith. And I don't know. Oh, Kiwi is how Kirsten is known, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Aubrey, you're Karen, and Anne-Marie, you're Kiwi, aka Kirsten Smith.
Great.
Okay. We'll start with question. When was that?
That was about 1.5 years ago. We had made a movie called She's the Man.
They made She's the Man, which is literally one of my favorite movies.
What?
I almost threw up when I read that.
Oh my God. And they, Lakeshore, were financiers on it. DreamWorks had hired us to work on it. We'd never really gotten to know Tom and Gary at Lakeshore, who are the chairman and CEO, and founder Tom Rosenberg and president Gary Lucchesi. So we decided that one day we should remedy that. We had a general meeting with Tom, and the very first thing he brought up was the script The Ugly Truth, which had had so many fans over the years. Interesting. It had so many fans, but it wasn't done. He said, we just picked up this project in Turnaround. This is a movie we're going to make, and you guys would be great for it. So we read it, we loved it, and we knew how to fix it. We started talking about it, and it led to a really great partnership with them.
They might have broken it. It, actually.
When you got involved with the project, had Katherine Heigl been cast yet?
No one was cast yet.
I understand from the precedent that you guys played a part in her being cast.
That's right. I love that they're giving us credit for it. We had met with her before and were big fans. So when the script was done and we were sitting there talking about which lady should play the part, we had Katherine in mind.
She's kind of the obvious heir apparent to the romantic comedy goddess throne. So it seemed like a really wonderful and, in fact, an obvious choice. And because we had the good fortune of being at the same agency, it worked out really nicely.
Had you worked with Katherine before?
No, we hadn't.
We had a meeting with her and her mom, Nancy, who's also her producing partner. we had lunch and we had a fantastic time and vowed to work together. And then when we were done writing the script, it seemed like the obvious fit.
Now, we only know what we read in the tabloids, so of course we've read all those stories about how difficult she is. I'm going to guess you didn't find her that way.
No.
What's the real Katherine Heigl like?
She's pleasant, talented, and funny.
It's the one word no.
Yeah.
She's so skilled as an actress. She just delivers a tremendous amount of variety in comedy. She's very exact with her comedy. That timing is so innate in her. And she's also wonderfully emotionally accessible. I think one of the things that I admire about her is her strength. And I think that maybe that's a threat to people. So somehow that turned into one direction. You referenced the tabloid saying. But I think her strength is incredibly inspiring because she speaks her mind. You know, movie stars like George Clooney and Sean Penn and many before them have always spoken their mind and felt no shame in doing so. So I love that there's a woman who's speaking her mind, and I think we should just celebrate it.
There's something of a double standard in Hollywood.
Yeah.
She's very, very professional and prepared. In terms of working with her, there's no difficulties at all.
While casting is important for any film, it seems all the more important with a romantic comedy where if you get the chemistry wrong, it just isn't going to work.
It's alchemy that the movie camera captures, and it really can't be faked. So essentially, it's about watching two people on screen together for an hour and a half, sparring and flirting and hating each other and kind of loving each other and having this complicated mating dance. I think the casting is the whole deal, pretty much.
I always felt that in romantic comedies, especially, the mark of the true movie star is when you're watching that girl on screen, you want to be that girl the entire time you're watching the movie. Like when you're watching Pretty Woman, you want to be a hooker. You want to be her because she makes it look so fun. It's like you're caught up in their spell. I think Katherine definitely has that as well. I don't think that anyone who watches Pretty Woman should walk away thinking that being a hooker seems fun. I actually think that's like
watches The Ugly Truth and is like, I want to be that character.
No, I went through this part A because I think this is around the time that people start being mean about Katherine Heigl, which we'll talk more about. But also like this notion that like that's what makes the romantic lead, the female romantic lead of a romantic movie work, being that you want to be her. I don't think I just don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true.
No, it's not true. And they also made a movie that proves that that's not true.
Yeah. Like I think I felt there were parts of that character that I related to. And that was the thing was I was like, oh God, like this is, like these things that like are being like deemed as like her bad qualities are things that I often get told about, like being someone who's very like control and cares about things like details and stuff like that. And like, I was like, oh, that's like, this character is relatable, but it's not a fantasy.
No, like I don't fantasize about printing out someone's dating profile and bringing it to a restaurant.
No, I really don't.
No, but I do like see myself in someone that's like, that champagne should have been chilled, but you know that. Like, I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's what we talked about in one of our previous episodes on rom-coms is like, these like sort of female-centered rom-coms tend to be a fantasy of like, you can have it all. You can have a great job and you can find love and you can have time for your passions. And like, that is like the fantasy that we're presenting to women. But in more male-directed rom-coms, it is, in fact, I think actually a fantasy of, you know, this is who you could be, which is a schlubby kind of loser who all you have to do is learn how to fucking wash your face every now and then you'll be rewarded with a hot wife.
Correct.
Yeah.
All Adam Sandler movies are fantasies for men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at a bar the other night and there was this guy having a crazy conversation next to us. So the second most crazy thing that he said, which I actually agree with, but the way that he was saying it was just insane, was he basically was like, Adam Sandler wasted a bunch of time making his own movies when he should have just been acting in other people's movies. And what he cited as that was Uncut Gems. And I was like, you have one example.
How dare.
Aubrey agrees.
I see the vision. I understand.
If I were Adam Sandler and I had the money that Adam Sandler has, I would absolutely just do a fuck ton of projects with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
Like, I would absolutely spend my money the same way that Adam Sandler probably has.
Whether you like those movies or not is kind of irrelevant. It was just an interesting conversation. The crazy thing that man said in that conversation is that there should be porn for kids. Not child porn, where there are kids in porn, but there should be porn made for children.
I don't like this guy.
No, I didn't like him.
I didn't like him before you said that, but now I really think he might he should maybe be arrested.
Yeah.
I'm really confused as to what that even looks
His point
like.
was that like kids like don't kids because there's had the whole epidemic of like that kids are like really like purity and like don't want to have sex and like are like weird about sex and are like becoming Puritans again. And he was like, I think we need to make porn for kids. And I was like, I don't think that that's the solution to the problem.
No.
Aubrey wanted to note that this movie was third in the box office behind, I think, the last Harry Potter movie and also G-Force. Anne-Marie, do you know what G-Force is?
I don't.
All right, everyone, Anne-Marie, we're going to look up G-Force right now.
Oh my God.
G-Force.
And I want you to look at the film poster for G-Force.
Wait. Am I looking at a movie?
Are you looking at guinea pigs who are spies?
Sure am.
G-Force is a movie about guinea pigs who are spies.
Well, now I need to watch this. Oh, excuse me. It's a specifically trained team of guinea pigs, a mole, and a fly.
Oh, yes.
Anne-Marie, can you guess who voices the main guinea pig?
Oh my God. Okay, this is 2009.
Yeah, make a guess for who voices the main guinea pig. I'll say it's a man. Yeah.
It's a man.
Yeah.
Okay, is it someone that is that I would deem too serious for this movie?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Alan Rickman.
No, it is in fact Sam Rockwell.
What?
In 2009, Sam Rockwell needed a pool, or he needed, I don't know, a bite to eat. And then he said, fuck it, I will be Special Agent Darwin, a snarky, no-nonsense, crested guinea pig who is the head of G-Force. He is also Juarez's love interest, who is voiced by Penelope Cruz. He is also the younger brother of Hurley, who is voiced by Jon Favreau.
I love Sam Rockwell, and I don't think he's too serious for this movie. I think that guy is a goofy motherfucker, and I'm so happy that he is the lead voice in G-Force.
Yeah.
I think we need to how do we make something into a cult classic? Do you just start showing it to everyone you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
G-Force Watch Party, first informed attraction live show.
So the basic premise of this show is that uptight morning show producer Abby, played by Katherine Heigl, is forced to work with vulgar relationship host Mike, played by Gerard Butler. And then we basically have an enemies to lovers story via humiliating behavioral experiments that he's running on her. So just a quick thing about the 2000s. We've mentioned this, but like it's the peak battle of the sexes media time. It's also the time when we have like pickup artist culture entering the mainstream. We have post Sex and the City sort of dating discourse, lots of men are from Mars, women are from Venus ideology. And we have the explosion of reality dating TV like The Bachelor, Rock of Love, Flavor of Love. And I think what's interesting about this movie specifically coming out in 2009 is it's kind of at the end of this moment. Like a lot of like The Bachelor I think started in like 2003. The Game came out in 2005. So like a lot of this has already been percolating for a few years now. And so this movie comes out at a moment where it's like almost missed its moment in a way. Like it's almost
did.
Yeah. And it's like, it's also come at a moment where like, so Gerard Butler's character, and I'll get more to this later, is sort of based on Adam Carolla. And in 2009, Adam Carolla's radio show was taken off the air and he moved to podcasting at this point. And I think, so it's also like a really interesting transition time for culture is the moment where this movie comes out.
Am I supposed to know who Adam Carolla is?
No.
I have the same question.
When I was a kid, I listened to the radio show that he had with Drew Pinsky late at night. So that's why I knew how he was. You can think of him as like a Howard Stern, Joe Rogan, similar vibes.
Yeah, I'm looking, I was like, is he the midpoint between Howard Stern and Joe Rogan?
A little bit. He was one of the co-hosts of The Man Show, which we've talked about on here before because Joe Rogan took over on The Man Show after Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla left The Man Show.
I see.
Yeah, so it was Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla first.
Someone will criticize me for not knowing who Adam Carolla is when we have talked about him on this show before. I forgore. I don't care.
I mean, we only briefly mentioned him when we talked about Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Yeah. But so, yeah, and like we noted, so it's weird because this movie like feels like a reflection of this whole era, but it's also already kind of dated by the time it comes out. And also it's really weird to watch it now because so much of the shit that Mike is saying sounds like an Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, alpha male podcaster guy, but old. So
well,
it's
like a movie like this couldn't exist now because they would be the equivalent of being like, yeah, this incel podcaster is gonna get platformed on our radio station or on our news station. Yeah, fall in love with them. It's like, no, he's gonna kill people.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like the fantasy part of this movie is that there are, well, unfortunately, the non-fantasy part is that he doesn't face any consequences. That's actually a realistic part of the movie. Story-wise, something we don't like, but is something that is realistic. But the fantasy part is that it doesn't affect anything outside of like the network, the people in the network, and like that very specific relationship, and that it doesn't, besides being like, oh, it's like saved the marriage of the two like
Anchors.
co-anchors, who like is a whole other thing of like those two actors.
Yeah. So it's weird. And I also want to note that this movie comes out around the time that people start being really shitty about Katherine Heigl. So for context about why people were shitty about Katherine Heigl, for folks who don't know, is basically she was on Grey's Anatomy, and the big things were that people like kind of shit on her for were how she publicly talked about both Grey's Anatomy and Knocked Up. So in regards to Grey's Anatomy, she sort of famously, after a season of Grey's Anatomy, talked about how she asked to not have herself be submitted for the Emmys because she didn't feel like the work she did that year deserved to even be submitted for the Emmys. And it very much got taken as like Katherine Heigl is saying that they're not giving her enough to do on Grey's Anatomy and she's being ungrateful. And so she's throwing a hissy fit about not even having enough to get put on the Emmys. And then also about Knocked Up, she like talked about, Anne-Marie, if you'd like to read this thing about Knocked Up.
Yes. When it comes to Knocked Up in 2008, she thought back on the movie, calling it a little sexist for portraying the women as humorless, uptight shrews and killjoys, while the men got to be lovable, goofy, and fun-loving. What's so bad about that when it's entirely accurate?
Yeah. And then Aubrey, I think part of it is what Seth Rogen said in response to like hearing that Katherine Heigl said this about Knocked Up.
Rogen said he felt hurt and betrayed, thinking her criticism meant she hated him and didn't enjoy working with him, despite her also saying in that interview 98% of the time it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and so basically she was like, hey, I kind of think Knocked Up is a little sexist looking back on it, and everyone was like, what if you killed yourself instead? I do think it's interesting that she called Knocked Up sexist and then was in this movie, but I also can understand that like this movie was written by 3 women, and so I might also be like, yeah, get me in there, let's see what's going on.
Well, and also too, if she's already getting criticized at the time, maybe she takes this role as an attempt to like, help the image a little bit, and also like, I don't know, actors take fucking roles, they need a fucking paycheck.
Yeah.
Or that, like, depending on how the script changed from the original script to when they, like, doctored it, and the difference between that and then what the actual finished cut was, I wonder if, like, how much of a change that was, too.
Yeah. So she, Katherine Heigl did an Actors on Actors interview a couple years ago. It was her and Ellen Pompeo, who is also on Grey's Anatomy, is the main character of Grey's Anatomy. And about that, Katherine Heigl said, I got on my soapbox and I had some things to say and I felt really passionate about this stuff. I felt really strongly. I felt so strongly that I also got a megaphone out on my soapbox. There was no part of me that imagined a bad reaction. I felt really justified in how I felt about it and where I was coming from. It took me until probably my mid to late 30s to really get back to tuning out all the noise and going, no, but who are you? Who are you without all of the opinions of who you are? Are you this bad person? Are you ungrateful? Are you unkind? Are you unprofessional? Are you difficult? Are you these things? Because I was confused. I thought maybe I was. That's when I got comfortable with my role as the villain and really enjoyed it. And so she basically was like, okay, if people are going to think this thing about me, I'm just going to like take that, because she knows she's not that way. But if people already think she is that way, like then she can speak her mind and not feel bad about it because people are already going to think those things about her regardless.
It's like the more she talks, the more I like her and the less I like every other person around her.
Yeah, it seemed like, it's like, why the hate? Like, and maybe it is that thing where it's just like, a woman is expressing an opinion and like is deemed as a bitch that's hard to work with.
Yeah.
Because this is also very much in that time where like that, like it'd be interesting to put that next to like other actresses where that they've been deemed the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the same thing. It's this article, this Medium article that I read about it, kind of wrapping up the whole thing, is they use Megan Fox as another example, because Megan Fox has talked about that she had like a really hard time on the Transformers set and feels like Michael Bay like sexualized her at a young age, and Michael Bay literally was like, nobody in the world knew about Megan Fox until I found her and put her in Transformers, even though she had been in several other things before then. And like, so there's like another thing about like just being an ungrateful woman. And then, you know, the same article used all these things about like all these other men who have done similar things. Robert Pattinson famously talks shit about Twilight all the time and everyone's chill about it. Men can do literal crimes and still be in movies. And so it's, you know, I think that like this article was a really interesting look at like the double standard about how like being a difficult woman gets you blacklisted, but being a difficult man doesn't, and even being a man who like does sex crimes doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because women are there to be props. They're not supposed to actually have opinions or voice discontent with anything ever.
Yeah. So I also really respect that the women who wrote The Ugly Truth in that interview were like, no, we like Katherine Heigl and she was really easy to work with. Because that was not a popular thing to say at the time that they were saying.
Right.
Aubrey, you also noted in here that you said that she reminds you of Kim Cattrall.
Yes, my issue with like Katherine Heigl movies is that for some reason she is always playing kind of like an uptight, fuddy-duddy type character, and I think that she's meant to play a Samantha type. Like I just feel like her essence makes so much more sense as like I'm like kind of like a smooth, like sex positive, like flirty, fun woman who's confident in myself, and like that is like intimidating to men. And I don't know, I think playing with that a little bit more, I don't understand.
It is interesting that in that interview they're like, she always shows up like she's very precise in her comedy. She always shows up like prepared and like has all these things. I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting parallel to the character, because like the whole thing is that she's so uptight and controlling and that she's over prepared, which is also what makes her a really good TV producer.
Yeah.
Because she's always prepared and like...
How dare a woman be good at her job?
How dare.
So, some notes on the movie. These were just literally my genuine reactions as I was watching it, and some of Aubrey's genuine reactions as she was watching it. Anne-Marie, please share all of your thoughts and feelings on these scenes. So, we start off hot. Hot and Cold by Katy Perry is playing. Immediately, I know when we are. Where are we? We're in Sacramento. The first things we see in the movie are the Sacramento skyline and then a little woman symbol with a heart in the head and a little man symbol with a heart over the penis. So that's what the movie's about. There you go. Roll the credits. That's kind of just the whole thing. Yep. And then one of the first jokes in the movie is we walk by a group of all the weathermen and they're all fat, and her associate producer says, why are all the weathermen fat? And Katherine Heigl says, because they're always wrong and people are more likely to forgive a fat man.
Untrue.
Yeah. I wrote Aubrey. Then Katherine Heigl's character is trying to hype up the male co-anchor of the show, who's like, I can't work with her anymore. She's emasculating me at home and she's emasculating me on the show, because the co-anchor of the show is his wife. And then immediately a character who then like for the rest of the movie we get told is like never crass says something about him having big balls. And then Aubrey, I said, I know you're a balls guy. I'm confused about why having big balls is a compliment. Is it a virility thing?
Yes.
Okay. But there's a too long joke about his balls being large. It goes on for so long. John Michael Higgins plays the male anchor on the show, and his wife is played by Cheryl Hines. And I said Cheryl Hines jump scare. Because also Cheryl Hines is married to RFK Jr., who is like literally an offshoot of fucking Gerard Butler's character in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
I also read that Nate Cordry is one of those, oh my God, it's that guy guys. And every time he's in a movie, he's like one of the other like writers or producers on the show. I'm like, oh my God, it's that guy from that thing. And then I look him up and I'm like, yep, it's that guy from that thing. Mm-hmm. So then she's talking to the producer of like the executive producer of the show. And he's like, the ratings are down. We need to do something to improve ratings. I've got two daughters in college and a son in salon school. Do you have any idea how expensive Vidal Sassoon is? And I was like, who is this movie for? It has to be for women, because men aren't going to know what Vidal Sassoon is.
And also like getting it in there, like pretty much like, I think what was implied is, I have a gay son and we're not going to comment on it.
Yeah.
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 And then it goes by, we're like, okay,
Sure.
I like this producer.
Being very woke about his gay son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then she's going on a date with a guy and she's like background checked him and shows up with a list of talking points. And I said, this is the evil conclusion of the work obsessed woman trope that we've been talking about throughout the series. Like, she's sort of like the evil version of Kate Hudson's character from How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so she goes home and she's sad because the date didn't go well. And she turns on local cable TV where Gerard Butler is being misogynistic and a Spike TV manosphere knockoff. And he quotes the immortal words, "Men are simple," to which I say, this is not true, and I literally need the media to understand this. Freud understood this. Why can't men? Why am I always defending Freud on this podcast? And I do think this movie ultimately is attempting to satirize that notion through how many hoops he is forcing her to jump through in order to get this guy. I just don't think it does a good job of landing the fact that that is supposed to be satire. But like, I do think that this movie is ultimately a little bit trying to make the point that men are not simple, but I don't think that it ever really comes together that that's the point that it's trying to make.
Well, that's where I do feel like there must have been some weird corporatization of this script, because I really think that at the bones, it is meant to be satirical, but then it's like the more and more interference that was put onto this project, it was just like, we gotta make it more raunchy, we gotta make more sex jokes, we gotta show how, we gotta have some good moments to cut for the trailer, and it was just a fucking disaster.
Yeah, I think that they don't ever like, we never get the sense that he is wrong about other people. We get the sense that he is wrong about himself.
Mhm.
We
Right.
learn that Mike is wrong about himself, but Mike is right about the guy who she's dating throughout most of the movie, and Mike is right about the two co-anchors on the show. The only person Mike is really wrong about is himself.
Right. And we see him explain why he knows so intimately, like, and so specifically why people will react the way that they end up doing. And he's proven right that whole time. But when it comes down to the moment of why do you like me, or like, why do you love me? He's essentially like, I don't fucking know.
I just do.
But meanwhile, the rest of the movie, he like over explains to prove the point of how right he is.
Yeah.
About how good he is at all of this, which like is like frustrating. I'm like, maybe that's also realistic, where like men just be like, look, this, I'm going to tell you everything about other people. And then the second that the mirror is put in front, it's like, bleh.
Yeah, totally. I wrote, of course she has a cat. He says the phrase, "Get skinny and get some trashy lingerie." And I wrote, brother, I was posting so many pictures of myself on the internet in my underwear in 2021 to 2023. And let me tell you, it is not that simple. Because you know what I was not doing from 2021 to 2023? Having sex. Can you say tits on TV? He says the word tits on TV. And I didn't know that was a word you could say on regular TV. Can you say tits on TV? None of us know.
I
Okay,
feel
great.
like it's gotta be frowned upon.
Yeah.
Right.
His whole show is just rage bait. And so at least they were in tune with that. Like, the whole structure of his show is that women call in and yell at him. And so
Right.
at least they like knew that his show was rage bait.
Right.
And to your point, Aubrey, I wrote, who decided that this was Katherine Heigl's type? She's so hot. Her whole type is like uptight, severe women who men don't like, and we have to pretend that she isn't tall and drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's like the she's all that of it all. It's like, what? It's like, it's not even that she takes off her glasses and it's like, wow, the librarian's been beautiful this whole time. It's just like, you knit and have a cat, push your tits up. Right.
I will say at least the crumb that this movie gives is Gerard Butler does immediately acknowledge that she is an incredibly attractive woman. Whereas I think there are other, like, genre movies in this sphere that like just don't acknowledge that at all, and it is always like, why are you pretending that this isn't a hot woman?
Yeah, there is no pretending, which is great in this. He's just like, you're not working with this the way you need to work with this.
Yeah,
that is the one thing that my biggest criticism of 27 Dresses is. 27 Dresses spends the whole movie being like, Tess, her sister, Katherine Heigl's sister in 27 Dresses, is hot, and Katherine Heigl's character is not hot. And I'm like, and then there's never really any reckoning with that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? The one they dye Katherine Heigl's hair brunette in that movie, and her sister is blonde.
Well, of course, because blondes are hot and brunettes aren't.
That's true.
As we've been told.
As we've been told over and over again.
I can't wait to do my hair color episode.
Yep.
Ooh, I can't wait to listen to it.
Part of his bit on the show is like just assuming a woman is ugly. He has like a buzzer that he hits when he's like, oh, so you're ugly. Bah! And it's like dog.
Yep.
Oh, Aubrey wrote, it's also just like, okay, so if you're skinny and slutty, men will want to fuck you, but not if you're a certified uggo. So is it easy or not?
Well, yeah, because it's like, there's this whole, and this is like an issue that I've had when men have said this out loud to me in the past, where they're like, it's easy for a woman to have sex with anybody. You just open up your phone and you can find a bunch of men who will sleep with you. And I don't know, not necessarily. I mean, sure, I guess there's a greater volume of men, but also it's like, I don't know, I also don't want to like just sleep with somebody who just like men have sex with dead bodies. Like, I don't just want to like have like I just want to have sex with any man.
Yeah. I also just like, again, like I was a thin person posting pictures of myself in my underwear on the internet for like years, and that was not a reason that there weren't like men flying into my DMs.
Right. The whole thing of like skinny and slutty versus uggo, and that it's like there's no, but then you want to know something embarrassing?
Yes.
The whole idea of a butterface, I didn't know what that meant for a long time, and I never asked until like a few years ago, and they're like, oh, but it's like everything is hot but her face. I was like, oh, and you know what my fucking brain came up with before I was told that?
Yeah.
You know when like something falls in like a stick of butter that's soft and it just kind of gets like misshapen, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
That's what I thought people meant by saying like butterface, that it was just kind of like soft and misshapen in some way.
And like not entirely, like that definition functionally does work.
I think that's how I skated by for so long in conversation. I genuinely had no clue.
I had a boy who called me a butterface, explained to me what it meant when I was 15.
Oh, so you got the insult and the mansplain. That's awesome.
Yeah!
And I've been told that I'm the opposite of a butterface, and that I have a beautiful face but a disgusting body.
My God. There's got to be another equally awful term for that. Like
a butter body.
Butter body? That sounds awesome to me. Butter body.
Butter body. That's sick.
I do objectively have a butter body.
Yeah. My body is full butterfat. It is at least 75%, I think. So I'm good with that.
There's this like thing of like women on TikTok who like, I want to believe that it's like well-intentioned, but I think it's still bad, where they're like, I'm not an almond mom, I'm a butter mom. And then they're like, I'm doing these 90s nostalgic meals where I'm serving my family hamburger helper and a piece of buttered bread. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I think I'm liking this move away from the almond mom thing, but then they're still couching it in the weird, like, trad wife thing of, yeah, like, I'm serving my family the way that I was when I was a kid, and I'm living slower and more intentionally, and it's still just weird. It's still just weird. Just be normal. Can we just be normal?
I have, like, 6 hours worth of thoughts on, like, the moving away from the almond mom, but it just all being trad wife, and there's kind of nothing in the middle. And even if something is in the middle, everyone's upset at it because there's pieces of one or the other, and it all sucks.
It all sucks. Nobody can be normal about food or bodies. That's why I have a career.
So the next scene of the movie, after they get into a fight, like when she calls into his show, is he gets hired to her show, and I just hate this construction. Just give me any amount of tension. It's just like they get into a fight on the TV show, and the next scene is he's in her office. And so this movie, I said this movie is literally emblematic of how America descended into fascism. He's got a point of view. We don't have to like it. Podcaster government, troll government, everyone is 12 now theory. He does it for the ratings. This is how we got Mr. Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so Gerard Butler comes in and just immediately sexually harasses Katherine Heigl. She's like, I'm your producer. And he's like, I love a woman on top.
Yep.
She reveals to him immediately, which like, very ballsy of her, may I say, that she was the one who called into his show last night. And he's like, oh, you're not ugly at all. And I just simply, doesn't that mean your whole worldview is wrong, you dick? If it's so much easier for hot women, what's up?
We should just like make a cut of the movie where it's just like, wow, you're not ugly at all. Credits. Like, oh, there's the movie. He was wrong.
He was wrong.
Well, that's it. And also the point that I have about this is like, what is the plot of this movie if she is ugly?
Yeah.
Like
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Like, is there even a movie where she's like, if she's an ugly woman and she's like, I called in last night, he'd just be like, yeah, you're fucking disgusting.
Right. Right. The movie only works because it's Katherine Heigl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a hot blonde woman.
Right.
Well, that's like the misogyny.
This is when I started to really crash out last night at 2 a.m. when I was watching this and eating a lot of Doritos. Who is this movie for? Whose fantasy is this? It has to be a man's fantasy, but it's not. It's a woman's fantasy. Like women wrote this, which is why it's like, again, I think it's ultimately like setting you up for it to all get pulled out from underneath of him in the third act, but then it doesn't all get pulled out from underneath of him. But I'm like, whose fantasy is to fall in love with this guy? Whose fantasy is to go enemies to lovers with this guy?
Yeah.
There are men I would go enemies to lovers with, not this guy.
Yeah.
That's why you go enemies to lovers with, Mackenna. Name names right now.
Who would I go enemies to lovers with? Name names right now?
Yeah, you said you would, so I'm putting you on the spot. You have to say.
I like the enemies to lovers trope in media when it's like a guy who's a little mean to you, a bad boy who hates everybody. Things like that. And like I have found myself, I don't know, I think a large part of my arc as a person is I keep trying to date men who are too mean to me, actually. They're like men who are too mean to me who are like software engineers, and men who are too mean to me who are like someone I'm working with at my job, not my current job. I am not talking about my current job. It is not dude who is a sexist podcast host. I don't want to be enemies to lovers with Joe Rogan.
No. To me,
that's why I like the notion that this movie could be like, if it's not like a rom-com in that like it has to be a fantasy for someone, but if it's like a sneaky rom-com where it's like kind of more written for men, to show like you're wrong. You're wrong, and you have the capacity to do something else.
Yeah.
And that all of the things that you think you're supposed to do and all of the things that you think you are supposed to want doesn't work for anyone.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's interesting, because I do think that the movie spends surprisingly little time with Mike as a character. Like, we really don't know anything about his motivations, his history, even like the rationale for why he does any shit that he's doing. And I just think that that's also where this movie misses the mark, because I think that I need to see more of Mike to understand who he is and why he is the way he is, to see if there's actually any reversal in his character.
Yeah. Right. Until there's the family scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where there's like, you get a taste, you're like, okay, so it is an act. Like, he is not the biggest piece of shit, because otherwise we will never root for him at least a little bit, like once LA happens.
If he really sucked that bad, his sister wouldn't let him to be around her kid. Yeah.
And then we do get confirmation, like, they are not allowed to watch this show, like, absolutely fucking not. And we're like, okay.
Yeah. I feel like that also my issue with like Mike actually improving the show is that like it gives and we never actually see Abby doing her job well before Mike is on the show. And so I am curious about the movie's perspective on whether Abby is actually good at her job or not, because the show is failing before Mike gets on the show, which is like a weird thing that I kind of hard like that, and that never to me really gets resolved.
Because it seems like in the beginning, at least, like she troubleshoots something like with the duck on the cooking show, and like someone's like, "How do you do it?" And she's like, "I'm great." And so there's like there is this acknowledgement that she's really good at her job, but also it almost seems it's like her taste that is tanking the show because she is such an uptight woman that doesn't want to have like emotion, like raw emotion on the show.
Yeah.
Even though Mike himself is never really showing like raw emotion because he's just kind of fucking lying the entire time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then the first segment that Mike does on the show is basically him being like, to the female co-anchor, to Cheryl Hines' character, being like, you're making your husband insecure by like being successful. And I wrote, literally asking a woman to settle for an insecure man because the other options are bad. He's like, you're going to find another eligible guy in Sacramento. Like, think about what else is out there. And I said, I hate being a femme person. Why couldn't I be born a man? Jesus Christ. This is why all the ugly dudes I've dated are mean to me. Gerard Butler's Mike says, you're not going to do any better than Larry. And I said, this is why so many women marry men who suck. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up about Larry. Get over your wife making more money than him. Fuck her because she's hot. Oh my God, I hate it here. Fuck your hot, successful wife. That's so, you have a hot, successful wife? Oh my God, you get to have sex with a hot, successful woman? That's awesome, Larry. Get over yourself.
Or just fucking divorce Larry and then go have a life that's fulfilling and, I don't know, get some fucking lovers who just want to fuck you because you're a sugar mama. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you get the tension on the show and the ratings that you want because now you have co-anchors that are divorced.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Credits.
Then they get told that there's 93 positive reviews of Mike's segment on the show. And I wrote, I'm killing myself in Sacramento. I know this is a movie, but this is just so reflective of a worldview. I'm so pissed off. He's got a million horny women on his answering machine when he gets home. And I'm just like, what's happening?
Why?
What did Adam... I don't know. I said, what's happening? What did Adam Carolla tell them that convinced them to do this? Like, did a bunch of women want to fuck Adam Carolla? I'm confused.
And that's the thing. No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah. He tells his nephew he's not supposed to listen to what he says on his show. So then why are you saying it? And then he says, you're supposed to say what I say to 25-year-old girls who think they're the hottest thing in the world, not to 14-year-old girls going through puberty. And I wrote, hey, bitch, maybe just don't be mean to women.
Yeah. No matter what the age, maybe just try that.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like this idea that like when girls are young, they need to build up a self-esteem, so you need to be nice to them. But then the moment they're legal, God forbid they be too fucking full of themselves, and it's your job as a potential romantic partner to strike them down where they stand so that they don't think that they're too good for you.
Well, yeah. It's like you got to build up the young girls while they're young so they can handle what we build up young boys to do when they become the same age.
Right. And his sister gets him a cake and says she's proud that he's on network TV now. And I was like, okay, I'm not letting my son near this man is what is true. I don't want my son to be influenced by this man. So we're Anne-Marie, to your point, like we're given this perspective that like Mike must not be that bad because he's allowed to be around this young boy.
Right.
I don't think that totally tracks. We let horrible men be around young boys all the time, but I think that is what the movie is attempting to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I just feel like I needed more shown to me. Like, I need to actually see Mike be tender with someone or be vulnerable. And I guess it's like, sure, the whole point is that it's not until the very end where he's expressing vulnerability because he's scared. But it's like, there's got to be other ways to show that throughout the runtime. Because the whole time I'm just like, this guy is a fucking tool.
I think we need to just have the nephew go through something actually difficult and have Mike help him through it. Like we needed to see Mike be an actual role model for this kid and like show emotional vulnerability to this child. Because the other time we see the kid is when he comes to the show and he's like, this girl asked me to Sadie Hawkins dance. Is it lame if I say yes? And he's like, no, dude, that's awesome. But it's like, we needed to see like then the Sadie Hawkins dance go really poorly and have her friends be really mean to him or something. And like, have Mike help him through that, so that then we saw like what Mike's actual emotional capacity is.
See, I want the like psychological horror that is like Mike and his nephew goes out and does some incel shit, and then Mike is like, oh my god, like I was the catalyst for all of this.
Yeah.
That's great. I might have to pitch that somewhere. I'm
that's
cooking.
write it down.
Hollywood@gmail.com. Hello, it's Aubrey again.
I'm Make our only version of the ugly truth, and the actual ugly truth is the consequences of the next generation of young boys that are affected by men like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I will write a non-binary rom-com. Aubrey will write the ugly truth, but it's not a rom-com at all.
Yeah, do it.
So Abby is getting her cat out of a tree when she peeping Toms her hot new neighbor. Then she falls out of the tree and he sees her panties because she's in a skirt, of course.
And she's wearing just giant underwear.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fine.
It's supposed to be the signal for, see, she is a prude. Like white full coverage panties in 2009. It's just like, oh, we're going to try and make it a little slutty, but you have to have granny panties on. So we see, like, this is supposed to tell us something about her character.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Interesting.
To add the humor, they should just had her in big old-timey bloomers.
Yeah.
I wish.
Eric Winter is the rival love interest, and he's hot and likes cats. So she's like, oh my god, whoa, you're hot and you like cats.
I had several notes here. I said, this guy looks AI generated. He has to be a soap opera actor. And he is. And if you go to his Wikipedia page, the picture that is on there does look AI generated. Here's the thing. I don't understand why the rival love interest, not just in this movie, but I feel like this is really typical in Hallmark movies, is just like the most cardboard, one-dimensional man to ever exist. Like, are we really that dumb as an audience that it's like, we can't even have the rival love interest be a fully fleshed out guy? He just has to be Mr. Perfect, and then, oh, like, why? She just doesn't have the spark with him, because he's not a real guy like Gerard Butler.
Also because she has to settle for Gerard Butler in this movie.
Fuck it, sure.
Fuck it, sure, whatever. I don't believe this hot blonde woman can't be normal around men. I don't believe it, sorry. We don't get any background into what her, like, early dating experiences were like. I don't feel like we know enough about what Abby's previous dating experiences are like for me to not believe that she can't be a little normal around this man. She is
normal. Like, that's the thing that fucks me up, is that it's like she's normal later. So why was it so hard?
Why was it so hard the first time they met? Her AP is like helping her with her dating life, and her AP is also a tall, thin, blonde woman. I'm going insane. It's 2 a.m. I'm sitting here in my underwear watching this movie and eating a bodega sandwich, and I'm crashing out.
And that woman is not Judy Greer.
It's not Judy Greer, but I did think it was Judy Greer at first.
Because that actress also is the sidekick in so many rom-coms.
Yeah, if they can't get Judy Greer, they get her.
Yep.
Well, wasn't she in The Wedding Planner with Judy Greer? Like, wasn't she the bride at the beginning?
Oh my god, maybe.
We established last time I've never seen The Wedding Planner, so I don't know.
That is a movie that is, like, drilled into my brain because it was, for some reason, always on TV when I would stay at my grandparents' house in the summer. So I have seen it so many times in my life, and I hate it.
Yeah, Brie Turner. Yeah. I tried to make my fiance watch The Wedding Planner with me because I saw it so much when I was younger that it was so formative. And then watching it again, he's like, this is really hard to watch. I'm like, yeah, I didn't say it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I said it was a formative movie. I did not say it was good.
Yeah.
What is your favorite rom-com?
My favorite rom-com?
Yeah.
On one of the episodes you're talking about When Harry Met Sally, and that's definitely, like,
to me that's
Queen.
The best, but the best doesn't have to be your favorite. Like, to me,
I think just because First Wives Club, it, like, has been one of my favorite movies since I was like 10 years old. It's just, I love it so much. But I think it also isn't a standard, like, singular love interest, does it work, does it not, like thing. Coming to America, as McKenna said, is when he goes to Queens to find his queen. And it is so good and so funny that is probably one.
Aubrey has this theory that she I mean, and she's right. She has ended up married to someone that is very similar to the male protagonist of her favorite rom-com growing up, which is 13 Going on 30. Do you feel like Adam is like a rom-com protagonist that you really liked growing up?
Well, it's funny because I love 13 Going on 30, and I did also just make Adam watch it. And I was like, this sucks because he's a photographer.
Yeah.
And now we are engaged, and now he thinks that because I love 13 Going on 30 so much, he has permission to have a film camera in his pocket and take a photo, to like take a selfie at the altar, like Mark Ruffalo, which I'm like, do not do it. I will kill you. But I do think that, like, I mean, I grew up on a lot of like New York rom-coms written by like iconic Jewish comedians. So I grew up with a lot of that humor, and I am marrying a Jewish native New Yorker.
Yeah.
So, you know, the neuroses are baked in there somewhere, I think.
Right.
You know?
Well, back to the ugly truth. So the next line I wrote down is that he says, Gerard Butler says the phrase, "the misguided phallic rage you just displayed." And I said, "I threw up in my mouth. I had swallowed a Dorito a while ago, and now I've thrown up in my mouth." I don't understand the appeal of Jello wrestling. I don't get it. I'm gay. I don't understand why Jello wrestling specifically is a thing. I don't understand.
It's the like, what if they kiss? What if they're fighting, and then what if they?
But why is it Jello? Why does it have to be Jello?
Because it's like dirty.
Then do mud.
Well, like
I
mud
think it's
wrestling
also
is
because it's edible.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, fine.
Because somebody somebody in this production team had a fetish, and they saw a moment.
Men would rather objectify women than have dinner with them is the moral of an entire scene that he does. That's the Jello wrestling scene. And I wrote, I bought a gun. Katherine Heigl has a nightmare about being forced to be a naked weather woman. The ratings on the show are going up. Oh my God, it's working. Him being evil are working. She calls the hot doctor and is going to ask him out, and he starts to tell her no. So Gerard Butler makes her hang up on him because allegedly men don't like when you ask them out, except for also guys are always complaining about about that they always have to be the one to approach women, but men are simple. Mm-mm. She starts taking his advice, and they make a bet that if she gets the guy using his advice, he'll be nice to her and they'll work together, and if he doesn't, he'll quit. I also think that should have come back around, that when she breaks up with him, he should have quit. That's why he should have quit. If men are so simple, why does he need to give her a bunch of fucking rules? Because the next scene is a montage of him giving her rules. And if men are so simple, why does she need a bunch of rules?
Right, because the conceit of this is that she is so complicated that she needs all of these rules in order to be dumbed down to be simple like a man.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Which I think is, what the movie was trying to get at, but it's so like swallowed up in all this other shit that it's like, men. He has a line where he says men are incapable of growth or self-improvement, and that's the most pernicious myth in this entire movie, I fear. Aubrey, I love what you wrote here.
I said women should simply settle for bad men, or they'll be alone, like in the alternate universe in It's a Wonderful Life.
Where Mary comes out of the library and like, oh no, she's wearing a hat.
Yes.
Glasses and a cardigan, and she's scared of you.
Exactly. It's either that or you settle for a bad man, and I guess that's better.
But I do think that, like, what is it that like men are incapable of what? Of
growth or self-improvement.
I think this movie might prove that. Like, I think that's ultimately what happens, because we know so little about Gerard Butler's character. We don't actually know that he's gone through a change.
Right.
So it could just be that like a story happened and circumstances changed, and like the inevitable happens where they finally like crash into each other and admit that they love each other, but we actually don't see an arc from him.
No. And I think that's like the reason why I think it's such a pernicious myth, and I have a little bit more on this later, but like I think it's a pernicious myth because it puts women in the position of like they have to be the one to change, because if men can't change, you have to be the one to change as a woman. So you shouldn't even ask men to change because they can't. And it's like, yes, they fucking can.
Which is why we need so many rules.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to hear about that in the current context where so much of the manosphere is rooted in this kind of veneer of self-help and self-improvement.
Right.
And not that this is like refreshing to hear, but it's just like, man, like even when men are like, oh, I am doing self-improvement, it is still this. It is still not actual like self-actualization.
Oh yeah. And I was having a conversation with someone that was about to go like deep down into one of these kind of like pilled like men's rights like Facebook groups or whatever, and like the lens that he told me that he was like so convinced for a while that was true is that like women are incapable of telling the truth, and like it's like so you need to like don't listen to them. But it was under this whole brilliant construction that seems like it's women positive because it's not women's fault, because the world is so against them and because the system works against them, a different system than patriarchy somehow that part I don't understand, but that like it's not women's fault. They've like been trained to have to lie all the time because like they can't trust anyone because the world isn't safe for them. So we're like actually helping women, which is like
it's the white knight misogyny. You know, it's like it's like the way we think of misogyny is either like the violent like women are horrible and like should be killed, and then there's also the other side of misogyny that's like, no, women are actually so good and fragile and pure that we need to help poor little women and protect them. And it's like, oh my god, you're not actually seeing women as human beings.
No, of course not. Why would we do that?
No, that'd be crazy. So then they're going shopping, and Gerard Butler like immediately like grabs the like shopkeeper to talk to her, like fully grabs her. And I was like, if a random fucking man grabbed my shoulder in the store that I worked in and then started talking about his friend's breasts, I'd throw up on his shoes.
Oh,
and then I'm wearing that bra right now.
Right now. Like, and also, the whole thing is they're trying to get her a bra to like make her tits stick up. And then what the woman picks up is a bra with literally no support. There is no support to that lacy little black bra that she picks up. And I was like, that's not going to solve the issue you're trying to solve. It's not going to solve the issue. And then he slaps his boss's ass, which is Katherine Heigl. And then another one of the rules is never talk about your problems because men don't care. Then why be in a relationship? What is the point of the relationship if the two people don't care about each other? I'm throwing up the salad I'm eating. I was watching this today. Last night I was eating the bodega sandwich. Today I was eating a salad while watching this. Because I'm trying to be skinny so men will like me.
Right.
Yeah. Katherine Heigl asks, why is it my job to inspire an erection? Why isn't it his job? And then Gerard Butler doesn't answer the question and just makes her get hair extensions, I think.
Yeah.
He tells her, you have to be two people, the saint and the sinner, the librarian and the stripper. Tell me again how men are simple. Tell me again how they're simple.
Yeah. And it's like, you just have to be everything. You just have to be everything. You have to be his wife and his mommy and his sexual fantasy and I don't even know, the fucking keeper of the secrets, and also the one who can answer every problem, and you should never complain, and also do everything and be incredibly beautiful.
Yep. It's like the whole thing with like the like trope of Italian men that it's like, oh, everyone has a mistress because once you're their wife, you are now a mother.
Yeah.
So now you're the mommy character, so you're not the harlot character anymore. So like wife equals mommy equals not fuckable.
Yep.
Disgusting.
And then she immediately grabs her employee's ass, and I think we should also talk about that. They're just like sexually harassing each other this whole movie. Not good workplace conduct. And then she's immediately good at flirting with Gerard Butler. In this scene, this is the scene where like she's about to get asked on the date by Eric Winter's character, and she's like running her finger on his chest, and she's being so sexy and flirting with him. And I was like, so what was the problem the whole time? Like, what was the problem the whole time? Like, she's good at this. She is actually good at this. Why would she need the rest of the movie? It's fixed.
Even before that, when they're at the they're like at a cafe or something, and he's like, you need to laugh at like everything that he says is like one of the rules. And then she's like, haha, he's like, was that real or not? You'll never know. It's like, so she already knows how to do it.
Yeah. She's doing it. Like what was the problem? What was the problem?
Because we need an excuse for a montage.
We need an excuse for a montage.
We need a transformation montage, even though it's proven multiple times that she doesn't need it.
No. I think that like, again, the movie is trying to make that point. I think even the next scene. So the next scene is, so Colin asks her on a date, which is Eric Winter. Colin asks her on a date. They go on the stage to the baseball game, and it goes like horribly because there's an earpiece. But like then Gerard Butler gets into a fight with a guy because a girl walks in and it's like, oh my god, I love you. And then the guy's like, why are you trying to fuck my girlfriend? And then they get into a fight, and then but she's repeating the things that he is saying to Colin, and then beer gets spilled on him, and she's trying to clean it up off his pants, and then it looks like she's sucking his dick on the Jumbotron. And so all of Gerard Butler's advice is actually like not good in this moment, and like almost fucks up her whole chances, and then like she kind of saves it at the end of the day, at the end of their date. And so again, I think the movie is like almost trying to make the point that like she didn't need him. But then that doesn't make the end of the movie where she breaks up with Colin work, because if she's actually being herself the whole time, the end of the movie doesn't work. Anyway, I don't think the movie like knows what it's doing entirely. So then Colin likes her because he can't figure her out, and she sticks her tits out at him, and he so obviously looks at them, and then they kiss. And then like Mike looks sad about it. Mike compares people to monkeys the next day, and they show bonobos having sex on television. And apparently that's good for a morning show. And then I just wrote that I think that Katherine Heigl is so cute and I love her, which is true. And then they get into a conversation about sex, and she says, I'm not a sexual deviant. And I'm like, let her be a sexual deviant. Why can't she be horny and listening to erotic audio? She hasn't had sex in almost a year and doesn't masturbate. And you know what I will agree with? You know, the one thing I'll agree with that Mike says in the whole movie is, if you don't want to have sex with you, why the hell would Colin? All right, listen. He gets one.
A broken clock.
He gets one good point. So then he buys her vibrating underwear, which is bad. What? Don't buy vibrating underwear for your boss. But he buys her vibrating underwear. She's supposed to go out with Colin, but she fucks up because that night she's also supposed to be going to this like producer dinner with like the people who own the network.
It's so stupid.
They all end up going on this dinner together where she's wearing the vibrating underwear.
Like, why is it so convoluted? And why, like, it like gives, like, I feel my blood vessels bursting in my brain that are going to cause me to have a stroke and die.
I've watched this movie with my mom. And during that scene, it's like so much of the movie, she's just like, oh, God. Like, she hates the entire, like, premise of, like, her wearing a vibrator at dinner, like, with all of these people. But every time, like, when I think maybe only other woman at the table, like, leans over, is like, what's in ceviche? She loses her mind.
Yeah.
She thinks it's, like, the funniest part of the whole movie, even though she hates that scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's
that makes sense. I know. I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah, so basically she has these vibrating underwear on a dinner, and the remote falls out and a child is playing with it, so she like fully comes at dinner.
And also it's like,
this kid is fucking weird.
This kid is too fucking old to be doing this, because the remote is just like this little cylinder with 2 buttons on it, and then this whole time I guess this 12-year-old is just like, press the button, and it's like, is he dumb?
Like, it goes on for way too long. He's just like staring at it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. That kid would have been like, I'm bored, and just like thrown it away.
Yeah.
Also, girl, excuse yourself and go to the bathroom and take the fucking underwear off and just don't have any panties on.
This was the point when I was watching it with my husband. He just kept going, why doesn't she just say she has to shit?
Yeah, honestly.
Well, she can't do that because women don't poop.
Yeah.
Right.
Women don't poop. So then, we're doing more shit, and Mike obviously likes her and is getting jealous when Colin sends her flowers, but is also checking out other women when they're at a bar together.
Yeah. My pet peeve in movies like this is that when there's a character who is setting up someone with someone else, but like that character has feelings for one of the characters they're setting up, there's always a moment where those 2 characters are like laughing together and having a loving moment, and then it pans over to the first person and you watch their smile drop, where it's like they're smiling, and then it just And it's like, oh my God, are we babies watching the fucking Doodle Bops? I know, I'm tired. I've seen this scene before.
Yeah. And this is, and I think that what you just said, that's where I think rom-coms get the thing about being formulaic, is because I feel like so many movies have that scene in them. And I think that's where people start giving the criticism that rom-coms are formulaic, is because like that scene exists in every movie with this setup.
Yeah.
And that's the
I
thing.
feel like there's two kinds of rom-com watchers. Like there are people that enjoy rom-coms and like enjoy that kind of storytelling and then get upset when it becomes that kind of thing, because you're like, can we do anything else? Could we possibly, there are creative people everywhere, could we come up with something else? And then there are the people that love Hallmark movies, and I think because it's so formulaic is why they find it comforting, because it's very nervous system friendly. They know exactly what's going to happen. It's just sometimes different actors and sometimes in a different villa in a different country, and otherwise it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, my mom is a big Hallmark watcher, and I think for her it's just this like, my mom definitely has my mom almost certainly has ADHD, and I think for her there's just some kind of comfort in being able to like have something on where she can be doing 40 different things and up and running around and doing whatever, and then can lock into it for however long her attention span allows, and then still feel like she watched a movie or whatever,
not miss anything kind of. Like, yeah.
So then we learned that there's an affiliate in San Francisco trying to poach Mike, and he's going on the Craig Ferguson show basically as an audition. So Abby's romantic weekend with Colin is killed by having to derail her plans to go to Lake Tahoe with him and go to, I think, LA or New York, one of them, to stop Mike from taking this other job, basically.
I love Craig Ferguson. He was my favorite of all the little late night hosts, and he, to me, was the most slept on.
So on the show, he says that like trying to find lust instead of love, and like that's his whole worldview. Craig presses him about the woman who messed him up, and then Mike avoids the question. At drinks, Abby finds out he has already turned down the offer because he wants to stay near his nephew. I wrote Katherine Heigl is so hot and compelling. And then she presses him on the woman who messed him up. And instead of giving us any sort of specifics, which I think would have been so useful here to tell us anything about Mike, what he says is there were lots of girls, codependent girls, unfaithful girls, depressed girls, narcissistic girls, phony girls, girls who it turned out didn't actually like me. And I was like, okay, well, when you rattle off that many girls have hurt him, I'm like, okay, this is just a man who hates women. Like, that's what I get from that. It's like, instead of you would have given me like 1 to 2 specific examples of like a really bad breakup he would have gone through, that would have been more useful to me than like him just like having a really negative opinion of a lot of women that he's dated. And I'm not saying that like there are women who do evil things to men all the time. And like, you know, it's very likely that he could have dated a woman who was like narcissistic and really cruel to him. And that made him like, that was a traumatic experience. But that's more interesting than him just saying narcissistic girls.
Right. It's like a guy that says that all of his exes are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Oh, so early on in the movie when she goes on that first date, there's this whole thing where she like makes the guy order tap water because there's no difference between tap water and still water. And then at this drinks, Mike says for tap water, and she like smiles lovingly at him when he orders tap water, and I almost jumped out my window. So then they're at the Spanish nightclub and they like dance extremely erotically, and I was like, I don't know, Abby, I fear this is bad. And then they like violently make out in the elevator, and I'm like, they would have immediately gone back to one of their rooms and had sex in real life.
Yeah.
Aubrey, you have to read this note because you wrote this and I can't read it in your voice.
Yeah, so she goes back to her room to like jerk off about it or whatever, and then Norma McNormal comes back, and I just don't like, fuck it, sure, I guess. Because we're in the last 20 minutes of the movie, so this is what has to happen now.
And I'm also like, he has to be her boyfriend at this point, so she just like fully cheated on him. Like that isn't established, but I'm like, there's no way they haven't had that conversation if he is like flying to a different state or getting on a plane to come see her in some regard.
Right.
But then she spills his drink on himself and is shirtless, and Mike comes in and sees him and is like butthurt about it. And then she like follows after Mike and is like, should I tell Colin to leave? And Mike is like, no, because he sucks and can't be vulnerable and ask for what he wants, which is to be with Abby. And then she's like, Colin, why do you like me? And he's like, because you're beautiful and smart and don't nag me. And then she's like, actually, I am controlling. Like, I hate the fact that the champagne isn't chilled. And I hate the fact that you fed me caviar that one time. And it's like, I don't know. This gets into my feelings about like that, like this whole like premise that no one would love a control freak is so strange to me, when also like in so many of my relationships with men, I have ostensibly turned into like their secretary and their mom. And so it's like, but the thing is like men only want those things when they want them. They want you to only be a control freak and a good planner when it is beneficial to them, and not when it is asking them to be better.
Right. Not when it's a buzzkill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, also, like, Aubrey, this was a really fair flag. Like, she never has sex with Colin with Normal McNormal.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're going to have sex in Lake Tahoe for the first time.
Right.
And so there's some weird, like, sexual purity stuff going on there for sure.
Which is also interesting of, like, that you're, like, they have to be dating at this point. So it's, like, it is saying the messaging is super weird because, like, does that mean that, like, they are dating and she just cheated on him?
Yeah.
Or they're not dating because they haven't had sex
yet? Right. Like, what is the relationship status of Colin and Abby? I feel like that's an important piece of information that we don't get in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's like weirdly ambiguous about it. I think because like if they were confirmed boyfriend and girlfriend, then Mike just seems like even more of a fucking weirdo for like, I don't know, setting her up and then kind of breaking up her relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And if they're not dating, then it makes Normal McNormal kind of fucking nuts to go fly, which like then puts him in the category of like crazy and neurotic, which is what Katherine Heigl's supposed to be in. So by that categorization, they would actually be more perfect for each other.
But when a guy does that, it's framed as spontaneous, because that's what he says to her. He's like, I thought you liked being spontaneous.
Right.
Yeah. So Mike quits because, I don't know. Also, but the other thing is that Mike was like right about Normal McNormal the whole time, because all the things he likes about Katherine Heigl are things that she is not.
Right.
And so it's like, I don't understand. Like, are we saying Mike is right or are we saying Mike is wrong? Which one are we saying? I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, we're saying like Mike is right and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So then Mike quits because, I don't know, when Abby literally said she wanted to be with him, but he's a panicked little bitch boy who can't handle intimacy, so he abandons his nephew and moves to San Francisco instead, I guess. And it's like, that's the thing. Later he's like, you wanted to be with the other guy instead of me. And it's like, no, she literally is like, do you want me to tell him to leave?
Yeah.
She asks you if that's what you want her to do.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't know. It's your fault. So then they run into him at the balloon festival with the shitty new Mike, and the shitty new Mike, who they clearly didn't screen test, by the way, says that he's had sex with 137 women, most of them conscious.
Yep.
And the whole joke is that he's just a rapist.
Right.
And it's because then he's like, women sometimes say no when they really mean yes. And if they really meant no, then I would have only had sex with 90 women. It's like, so you've raped 47 women?
Yep.
That's a joke. That's a joke in that moment.
Yep.
So then Abby kicks him out of the hot air balloon and takes over the show. She negs Mike live on TV. And you know what? Good for her. Crash out on TV, girl.
Yep.
I support women's wrongs. And then Mike's monologue literally gets at his insecurity, which is that, like, she likes Colin better than him because he is a doctor and has money and is successful. But Mike also is successful and has money at this point in the movie. So that's confusing to me. But like we kind of get to understand a little bit about what Mike's insecurity is, which is that he's never going to be the guy who checks off a woman's checklist. Right. And it's like, I wish that had been clear throughout the movie, because it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere at this point. Right. And I would also argue that Abby's checklists that we get throughout the movie is that, like, she wants a guy who likes cats and likes classical music and likes going on picnics. And those aren't, like, status things, really.
Right.
They're just preferences. And she ends up with a guy who doesn't like any of those things. So what is that saying?
The message is really fuzzy around, like, if Gerard Butler was like, the thing that is wrong about women that are dating right now is that they are looking for a checklist. Like, if he made it about status instead of, like, real people don't fit into a checklist, which is what it seems like it's trying to do, but, like, doesn't get there.
Yeah, but doesn't get there. Right. And so then they are in the hot air balloon, the hot air balloon lifts. And so then we just they invent reality TV, because they just keep the camera rolling on the live camera while they're in the balloon. And he says something like, I never had a chance with you. And it's like, why did you never have a chance with her? You didn't have a chance with her because you immediately came out swinging with, I like a woman that's on top. Like, she might have given you a chance if you had just come and been normal style about it, but you weren't normal style about it. And then she does give you a chance. She literally gives you a chance and you squandered it. And I wish she had hit him with that of like, I did give you a chance and you ran away. And then he's like, especially when I'm in love with a psycho like you. And then he's like, I just told you I loved you and you didn't even respond to it. And it's like, yeah, because you didn't say you loved me. You said that you're in love with me and I'm a psycho.
Right. And that's framed as her being like, this is see, this is your problem. I just insulted you when I said I loved you. And you're just focusing on the fact that I insulted you.
Right.
And that's a her problem.
That's a her problem. Which is crazy.
These two do not stay together. After the events of this movie, how long do we think this relationship actually lasted?
A long year and a half, and they probably broke up like 3 times in that time.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Because he only loves her until he gets her, and then he's not going to love her anymore.
Right, and then he's going to lose her, and then he's going to reel her back in, and fool her once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Yeah. Gerard Butler is a good actor, and that's the only reason the I love you moment works even a little bit. Like, otherwise, that scene just like would have, I mean, it doesn't really work, but the only reason this character works at all in any regard is because Gerard Butler is a good actor. And had this not been like a very good actor, because this isn't a movie. Okay, I don't even think Gerard Butler is like even like the most handsome man in the world who they could have cast, but he is such a good actor and is very handsome, but is not like he's not Patrick Dempsey, like he's not like McDreamy. And so, but he's such a good actor. That's the only reason Mike at all works as a character. And then the last scene in the movie is dumb. They have sex and she comes. And he's like, was that a real orgasm or were you faking it? And she's like, I'll never tell. And it's like, hey, you should make your girlfriend come.
Yeah.
If you're not making your girlfriend come, you should try harder and make your girlfriend come. And that's the ugly truth. That's the movie. My big thought, I have lots of big thoughts. One of my big thoughts is that this movie is in so many ways to me the inverse 27 Dresses. Like, it's a movie about a woman lying to a man that she actually likes and then is like, it's bad that I did this and I'm actually in love with this other guy. And 27 Dresses is about a girl who is mad that her sister is lying to the guy she likes. And throughout that process, she enemies to lovers with a different guy. So it was interesting to watch this as someone who's a huge fan of 27 Dresses. And then I do want to specifically just talk a little bit more about like Gerard Butler as the love interest in this movie. I don't know whose fantasy this is, and I mean this is someone who who does like the enemies to lovers trope, but like this movie is structured because this movie is structured around following Abby as a protagonist, and thus this should be the female POV in a female fantasy. But instead, it's like kind of in the Wedding Crashers vein of like a man just has to exist and eventually a woman will like him if he does any sort of gesture. And so I just don't know. I don't know who this movie is for ultimately. Like, I just don't, because we don't see him grow, and the way that we see her grow is very strange. And so
I like backwards grow. Like, we see her come into herself by like pretending to be someone that she's not, essentially. But like, it's so confusing because it pretty much feeds into the trope, like the idea that like women just actually want a bad boy and that nice guys finish last, blah, 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 that like they want a guy that takes control and like a man's man. And this like, it kind of supports that. I don't think it does it completely. I think it tries not to, but ultimately does.
Yeah. Also, Gerard Butler is Javert.
And I'm Javert.
Sure.
Aubrey, what is this note about his filmography?
Oh my god. No, this is like the dumbest thing. I was just like, what's Gerard Butler been up to lately? And I saw that he was in a 2020 apocalypse movie called Greenland. And there is a recent released Greenland 2. So I'm guessing that the world didn't end in Greenland 2020. So spoilers for Greenland 2020 starring Gerard Butler.
Oh my god.
So in this movie, Mike is a shock jock, a pickup artist, a truth teller, and it's basically like a Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, Sneeko, Nick Fuentes like predecessor. So he sort of like prefigures these manosphere influencers and like alpha male dating advice guys and like pickup artists, but definitely isn't the way we see it today. And I'm just like interested in like so if I think about like him being like basically a pickup artist, like what woman's fantasy was it to find out that a pickup artist was actually someone worth falling in love with?
Well, and that's where I don't think that it's a woman's, like, I truly believe that the original kind of intent of this script had to have been something like, there's this guy who is insane. What if we strip away all the insanity from him and see the like vulnerable man who's underneath it? That's what I think the core of like what this movie was probably intended to be was like. Because there's no universe where somebody was like, yeah, let's have a Howard Stern type. Let's have that. That sounds fun. That seems like that's something women want to see. Because this movie is so marketed toward women, right? Like, that's the thing,
Right.
is that this is like, you've said this before, Mackenna, like, this is such a weird movie because it is the same tone and ethos as the, like, For the Boys movies, like Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin, but then it's, like, very much couched in the aesthetics and, like, a lot of the framing of the For the Girls rom-coms of the era, so it's just so confusing.
The other thing that's like just interesting to me about it is it's like I think that this works if it's almost like a theoretical revenge fantasy about like teaching this pickup artist man that he is in fact wrong and using all of this bravado as like a means to like escape vulnerability. That's an interesting movie to me. And that's almost what this movie is. But there's too much of this movie that is also couched in the fact that like Mike is improving the show. Mike is fixing the relationship of these two co-anchors. Mike is correct that like he does get this guy to fall for a version of her that like, and so I don't know. It's like I don't think the movie like comes down on the worldview of Mike enough to make the point that it almost makes.
Yeah. I think that like they don't in order for it to be like a narrative that I would fully back, he would have to get the girl only when we actually see him drop all of the bullshit that we have come to understand is like a separate persona.
Right. Like I think the final moment of him like on air needs to be something about like, fuck, I did fall in love with someone. Like in my great attempts to be this guy who never falls in love with anyone, I fell in love with someone who is not like any of the things that I have said that I think men want. Because that's true. He falls in love with the real version of Abby, which is unlike all of these things that he has stated men want, besides the fact that she's very hot. But like she does all the things to him that he tells her not to do to this other guy. And it's like, I think we need to hear him say that like, I fell in love with you despite all the things that I thought I think men like about women. And that means that I was wrong, not that I fell in love with you despite the fact that you're neurotic, which is what he does say in the movie.
Right. Because then again, it's not on the male character to actually say that. It is on the mostly female viewership to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
That is what he ultimately means.
Right.
It literally just reminds me of the one meme that's like, girls from your hometown always tear up when their husband is giving the speech at their wedding because it's the only time they've ever heard him compliment her. Like, just like that. like that's like just the vibe I get of like,
yeah, which is sad. So weirdly enough, when this movie came out, like from like a lot of professional film critics, the thing that I saw that was like men were super negative on it and then women were super positive about it. And I don't know that I've quite diagnosed what's going on there. I don't know if it's just like yearning for sex positivity at the time or if it's like being scared of being called a harpy if they hate it, but yet it seems that men largely did hate it.
I think that this is one of those cases where, you know how when there's somebody who you find a little bit irritating in media, but then everybody starts dogpiling on them, so then you have to be their number one defender. Like, this is kind of like my relationship with Lizzo, where I really don't want to claim Lizzo in any way, but then people have dogpiled so fucking hard on Lizzo that now I have to be the one who's like, hold on, guys, I don't think Lizzo is as bad as Hitler. And like, I feel like that is kind of what happened with the women who are kind of defending the ugly truth in the reviews at the time, where it's like, because like these rom-coms that are geared toward women are seen as such fluff pieces and such nothing. I think that female reviewers probably felt this sense of like, anything that is for women, I have to prop up. Otherwise, like, we're not going to get like female-centered movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I also think that a true thing is that Katherine Heigl and Gerard Butler like do have good chemistry, and if that's your barometer for what makes a good rom-com is like, do the two leads have good chemistry? Sure, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
They absolutely do. But I just think the gender politics of this movie are quite insane, and the worldview is that like men are shallow, simple, visual, and women are manipulative and emotional, and that just means accepting gender stereotypes. And I really push back against that because I feel like this movie almost makes a point about socialization, but then you really end up getting into like some like biological determinism stuff with it. And I just think that like really makes me nervous when you have people like Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes being like, women should be subjugated because it's all biology. And I just like this movie, like, I think if it was making fun of the worldview of Gerard Butler's character more, it would make more sense. But it simultaneously condemns Mike's behavior, but also validates a lot of the stuff that he says. And so at the end, for me, like the question is, does the movie actually believe that Mike changes or that Mike was wrong? Or is the movie about Abby learning to tolerate him? And is this actually like a taming of the shrew situation? And I think it's a taming of the shrew situation.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
And so I read this Medium article by a man, and I really like this quote from it where he said, likewise, according to the men are Martian stereotypes, men are just as oblique in the way that they express themselves. Accordingly, when he says you are overreacting / dramatic, what he is actually doing is blaming a woman for reacting to his bad behavior by asserting that she is emotional while he naturally is the rational one. And I think Anne-Marie, to your point, like the whole thing of like, she's so complicated that he needs to give her all of these complicated rules so that she can understand that men are simple,
Right.
is it's the same thing. Whereas like, instead of just admitting that men are also complicated and there's a lot of things, complicated feelings going on with them, we're instead pretending like they're not complicated. And so then I'm going to give you all these rules so you can see how not complicated we are,
Right.
and making the onus of that on the woman to change instead of having the man do any growth at all.
Right.
I think like what I ultimately want to talk about with this movie is like fear, and that this movie is like deeply anxious about what does it mean, or at least not the movie itself, but at least is reflecting this worldview of like women having standards, men being emotionally vulnerable. Because I would argue we never see Mike be emotionally vulnerable. And that relationships require maturity, and that like the solution is sort of to just be like, sorry, ladies, there's nothing you can do about it. So just let a man do whatever they want instead of taking any ownership for their behavior. And I think it's like the reason it made me so mad ultimately is it just does not have to be this way. And it's so based, I mean, I think the two of you specifically can speak to this as people who like have long-term partners, but like it's just so based on this false premise about like men and women, and basically like the moral is that like if a woman wants to be in a heterosexual relationship, that they should just lower their standards and not have any expectations for the men that they're dating.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I find the whole men are simple thing to be so pernicious. Because if men were so simple, then why would the entire argument need to be that women need to change themselves in all these ways in order to be with men? And like, this movie presents trying to be with a man as like walking through an array of booby traps, and thus men are not simple, but at the same time, like she ends up with the guy who she was herself around. And so that's why, like, again, I just think the messaging of this movie is confused.
Yeah.
But in any way, perpetuating this myth that men are simple is a method of control for heterosexual women, wherein they're basically being told that any struggle they're having during dating is their fault and they should just be better at it because men are simple and it shouldn't be this hard for them. Aubrey, I would love for you to read this excerpt by economist George Gilder in his book Sexual Suicide from 1973.
Yeah. Men are, by nature, violent, sexually predatory, and irresponsible. Men lust, but they know not what for. They wander and lose track of the goal. They fight and compete, but they forget the prize. They spread seed, but spurn the seasons of growth. They chase power and glory, but miss the meaning of life. Who must civilize these monsters? Women! It is women's job to domesticate these unruly males. Women transform male lust into love, channel male wanderlust into jobs, homes, and families, change hunters into fathers, divert male will to power into a drive to create.
Couple things there. We are saying men are capable of change, but only if a woman shows them the way. And I think that's a really, really weird and interesting thing that I just don't like, but I think is so in the worldview. And this is where I have to do a Mackenna personal story alert. So I went through a bit of a breakup last year with a weird situationship that I was in. And in the breakup conversation, the guy was like, I was very clear about what I wanted from the beginning. He kept saying that. He was very clear about what he wanted from the beginning. In the first conversation he and I ever had about what we wanted, we both said we were kind of open to anything. He directly said to me, oh, I'd be open to something like long-term, short-term, open, close. I'm kind of open to anything. That's what he said to me on the first date we went on, right? So, but then our whole breakup was being framed as that I didn't understand that he wanted to be casual the whole time. I didn't understand that, even though he had been very clear about that the whole time. When in fact he hadn't been. He simply had not been. But I just misunderstood him. Every time it was about me having misunderstood him. But he was very clear about it the whole time. And the problem was I misunderstood what he was saying, right? And when in actuality, what was happening is the goalpost was being constantly changed and I was being expected to adapt to it. And like specifically whenever I was like, hey, I don't like how this thing is working in our relationship. Is it okay if this thing changed? He would be like, well, I just want to be casual. So why would we like have rules or anything, right? And I think that like, I feel like movies like this reinforce the burden of making a relationship work, at least a heterosexual relationship work, is entirely on the woman. And if they don't agree to what the male partner wants, he will stray. And I want to be very clear that was something that guy I dated last year said to me. He at one point said to me that like it's better to just be in an open relationship because men's eyes are going to stray, and if you're just open from the beginning, then like you just avoid cheating on your partner. And I was like, okay, sure, okay. This was things were on their way out when he said this to me, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever, all right, that's interesting. And I think that like we have to put the onus on both partners in a relationship, regardless of gender, regardless of if it's two men, two women, non-binary folks, regardless of what the gender makeup of a couple is, it is the onus on both partners, or if you're in a poly situation, all partners in the situation to make the thing work. Both people, all people in the relationship have to come in with honesty, openness, and compassion. The ugly truth is that right now we are failing our young men by not teaching them those things as a fucking child. And we are failing our young women by making that their fault when a 40-year-old man starts negging them in the club and telling them that men are simple, but also you need to twist yourself into knots in order to fit the mold of what they want, or else their eye just simply will stray. And so ultimately, I wish that this movie was just a different movie. I wish that this movie was the movie that we all want it to be, that we can all see it being. Yeah. But instead, I think it just reinforces a bad thing, which is that women should change and men should stay the same.
Yeah.
Or that not even that they should, that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And that it will continue to happen. And this is a good scenario out of a bad world where the realities of the world end up in a not so bad way, which is just reinforcing the idea that this worldview is like the only one, and that all of these behaviors are inevitable, and that all of these differences are based on gender.
Yeah. And it's like, I fear we could just imagine a better world and just like create the world in which that isn't true. Because I would say, as someone who knows both of your significant others, that not all men are like that. And it's like, that's not every guy is the guy that Gerard Butler that Mike imagines in this movie. I don't want to put it on Gerard Butler. I don't know how he feels about women.
Like I will always say that bi women or like bi people are like proof that sexuality is not a choice, because some of us end up with men. And like, if it were a choice based on gestures broadly, we probably wouldn't. But that like, there are the men, and like, it's funny, the whole men are simple idea is such a fucking battle all the time, and it's been so beaten into all of us that like Adam and I joke about it all the time because he says it about himself all the time. He's like, I'm just a simple man, and I laugh in his face every single time because he's one of the most particular men that I fucking know, and I'm marrying him. But the only reason that we're still together is that I laugh at him, and then he's like, oh, right. Yeah, I guess that's not really true, is it? Like it is the only part that's simple is that it just takes the acknowledgement to make it not a horrible situation that it's like, oh, I guess that's not true. Right. Okay. Perhaps I am pretty difficult. Let me tweak my behaviors a little bit based on this new information that I have, which is also hysterical.
Yeah. So, just a lighthearted episode about the state of young men and men in general, and socialization, but on an actual lighthearted note. So, Anne-Marie famously has a book about rom-coms and cheese pairings to go with your rom-coms. I have personally done the rom-com pairing, the cheese pairing that Anne-Marie has for The Holiday, and it was quite delicious and quite a good time. And Anne-Marie, I did prime you at your birthday party this weekend. Do you have a cheese pairing for The Ugly Truth?
I do.
Okay.
And this is still a work in progress, but I think what it is Greensward is a cheese. It's a washed rind cheese, which is wrapped in spruce bark. So it's like really gooey, but it's a stinker. Like it's pretty, it's like really earthy, but it's also funky. So I think it's like a beautiful cheese, but it's also like smells horrible, which to go back an hour of like our initial, like the Gerard Butler of it all, like he is gorgeous and he is always a little sweaty. And so is this cheese.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. I would eat it any day of the week. And if it's like in a room, you're like, whoa, what's going on? So that paired with salt and vinegar potato chips. It's something that most people like generally like, but there are a bunch of loud people that are like, that's disgusting and it hurts me, which I used to be one of those. I'm just like, that burns my mouth. It's not a good experience for me, which I think kind of reflects how Katherine Heigl's image has been in the media and people's different like takes on her. Like very versatile, a lot of acidity. It's very specific. Like it knows what it's doing. It knows what role it is, but you can pair it with a lot. What they do together is that this is a really creamy cheese that like fat and protein content is very high. So you need some acidity to kind of balance it out. And so they do, like I think Gerard Butler and Katherine Heigl have incredible chemistry in this movie. And like those two things together on their own do completely different things, but together I think really balance each other out.
Amazing. Aubrey, what is your pairing for this with this movie?
Bleach and bong water.
Bleach and bong water is like a great, I don't know if it's the name of a bar, of a different podcast, like it's something.
It sure is. Well, thank you, Anne-Marie, so much for coming on today. I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode to the Trust Your Taste website so that you can look at the book and also any of the candles that Anne-Marie has. But Anne-Marie, will you also talk a little bit just about what Trust Your Taste is? Because I love Trust Your Taste also.
Yeah, for sure. It is a events, education, and entertainment company that I pretty much started because I have been in the tasting world for over a decade at this point, and I was really upset that most of the rooms I was in was one person at the front of the room going on an ego trip and everyone else nervously very hesitant to express anything that they were actually experiencing. So they would always ask, like, what am I supposed to be tasting? And that was very fundamentally a philosophical, moral problem for me, where I framed it as like, oh, we're teaching people that their experience is not only invalid, but that in a broad world is incorrect. So Trust Your Taste, it started with the Trust Your Taste workshop, where it's a guided cheese pairing with guided discussion and journal prompts, where it's a memory mining exercise. And the whole idea is that if you can learn to trust your literal sense of taste, you can learn to trust yourself in other areas of your life.
Yay. Aubrey, what's your favorite cheese?
My favorite cheese? To be honest, like I really love like a gorgonzola, like
Nice.
any kind of like blue cheese, like stinky, like very I don't know. Like I just like that stank on it. My favorite thing is like I just love like especially a gorgonzola with something sweet. Like that is my ideal little bits on a charcuterie.
You would probably love the Parent Trap pairing.
Oh! Are you able to reveal?
It is Colston Bassett Stilton, so super English blue cheese with golden Oreos.
I would love that.
It's it's something really English, something really American that like almost should not work together. But what they bring out in each other is magical, and like a nod to the Oreo and peanut butter moment.
Oh, I love that. That sounds delicious and makes me want to watch The Parent Trap, which is a beloved movie for me.
Which is a great movie about a relationship that didn't work out and then does. But also, might I add, I think we need to reckon with the role of the stepmom, the new girlfriend, Meredith. We have to reckon with Meredith because that is a 25-year-old woman who was just trying to get her bag and then is harassed by two evil gingers. Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.